Hello, Alaska. It's U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan, and just want to give you another quick update of some of the things that have been going on back home and here in D.C. Some good things, some not so good things, but let me just give you a quick summary. I was home for about 10 days, just got back a couple days ago, was able to get all over the state, was in Juneau, was able to give my annual speech to the legislature, laid out a lot of good ideas that I thought were a bipartisan set of ideas that we could all work on, Democrats, Republicans, in the state legislature. Had some good meetings with a number of our state leaders, state senators, state reps, so very good time down there. And then on an issue that I know we can all work together in a bipartisan way, I was in Fairbanks and Anchorage focusing for 2 days doing a listening session with our troops, and a listening session with Democrat Congresswoman Jackie Speer from California. She's the chair of the subcommittee on the Armed Services Committee in the House for personnel issues. The issue that Congresswoman Speer and I were focused on is the enormously horrible, very, very high rates of suicide among our active duty military in Alaska. The numbers are just horrendous. They're through the roof. If you include our reserve and guard, 40 suicides in the last 4 years. That's more men and women who were killed in action in Afghanistan. Suicide in our state. Congresswoman Speer and I had written the Secretary of the Army with some ideas. We got a lot more ideas. I encouraged the state legislature to work on ideas, but this is going to take all of us. Communities, our communities are great supporting our military throughout the state, but I know there's more we can do. So this is an issue we all want to work together on. Spent a lot of time on it back when I was home. So back here in D.C., we had a really important win the other day, the American Fisheries Advisory Committee Act, something I've been working on for a long time. We passed it here in the Senate before. We got it passed in the House 2 nights ago. It was a Congressman Young bill. The congressmen in the House were still talking about Don Young. We got that done. That's to make sure our fishermen and other Alaskans have a say in where federal dollars go to help support fisheries, marketing, and other activities. For many, many years, that money has been allocated almost purely from federal bureaucrats in D.C. We want our fishermen to say, this is where it should go. That's going to the president's desk soon, so we got that done. Really, really excited about that. 2 final issues I just want to mention. Some of you may have seen in the paper, there was a big funeral yesterday for former Secretary of State and UN Ambassador, or U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Madeleine Albright. Now, I didn't agree with Madeleine Albright on everything, but she and I worked together very closely, given that the National Endowment of Democracy organizations, one is called the National Democratic Institute, she chaired that. The other one's called the International Republican Institute. I chair that. That is to push back on authoritarian regimes around the world, and she and I work very closely together on those issues. I would tell you one thing about Madeleine Albright. She was born in a communist country. Nazis invaded. This is the Czech Republic. Much of her family was killed during the Holocaust. She was one tough woman, and I will say this, dictators around the world were scared of her. Despite her probably 4'11" frame, she was tough. And I was very honored and really humbled. I was asked to serve as a honorary pallbearer in her funeral just yesterday. Beautiful funeral in the National Cathedral in Washington, and it was a good send-off to a great American, and I was honored to play that role. Finally, some not so good news, and I'm going to be a little harsh here because I'm pretty darn upset about it. You know, we had Secretary Holland, who really hasn't been very upfront with me and the Alaskan people very often on a whole host of issues. She visited Alaska for the week, which was good. Senator Murkowski and I, Congressman Young, we all invited her. She finally got to Alaska. Did a whole bunch of group listening meetings in Anchorage, Fairbanks, King Cove, really important. And importantly, Utqiagvik, met with a bunch of our Inupiat leaders up there, all of whom had the same message, which, by the way, is a very bipartisan message in Alaska. No more shutdowns of our state, particularly the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska. We were unified as Alaskans, Democrats, Republicans, Native, non-Native, but especially the people of Utqiagvik. One message, Madam Secretary, don't shut down NPRA anymore. That's an opportunity for us. Don't shut it down. She listened. She said, I wasn't there. She even cried, I guess. And then within 48 hours, she came back to D.C. on Monday, issued this almost 100-page order that, of course, she knew she was going to issue, but never told Alaskans, that completely tries to shut down NPRA. As a matter of fact, takes half of NPRA off the table. So much oil and gas potential there, huge opportunities for our state, really important for our foreign policy and national security right now. They took that off the table. The only people smiling right now because of that are the radical environmental groups and probably Vladimir Putin, who's still amazed at the luck he has that the Biden administration wants to undermine our own energy potential. But the Secretary did that, came back here. You know, I find that action very dishonest. To go to Alaska, oh, I'm going to listen, I'm going to hear from you. And then in her order, it actually said, we're doing this in part to help the Inupiat people. That was in her order. The Inupiat people, the leaders that she met with, don't want that at all. So shame on you, Madam Secretary. Really disappointed, but it's more of the really horrible shutdown the Biden administration is doing. 22 executive orders and executive actions shutting down our state, limiting our energy production, limiting access to our federal lands, hurting Native communities in particular. I'm going to keep fighting that, but boy, the power of the federal government, particularly when they're not honest with Alaskans, it's tough to swallow, but we'll keep fighting it. We're going to have better days in the future. We all need to keep fighting that. Again, doesn't help anybody, doesn't help the environment, doesn't help our state, doesn't help our workers, doesn't help our Native community, doesn't help our national security. I have no freaking idea why they're doing this to us, but they did it. And I hope all Alaskans write the White House, write the Secretary saying, shame on you. That wasn't serious consultation. You knew you were going to do this the whole time you were up there, which she did, and she wasn't honest with us, so not good. We'll keep fighting that and continue to provide updates to all of you. Thanks again.